Hi guys, I just wanted to do a video on something that is pretty important to me, being an art student and wanting to be an artist, and being part of the goth community, so it's kind of a bit of both, and you can see I'm an artist. Look at those hands, that won't come off. Anyway, and I just wanted to talk about the real Bauhaus. I know a lot of you are going to be like, I love the Bauhaus, they're such a good band. And yes, they are a really good band, but I'm not talking about the band, I'm talking about the real Bauhaus. And obviously, if you're a fan of the band, then maybe you should be interested in why they chose the name and why, obviously they were inspired by the real Bauhaus. So, it's a pretty big deal to them, so maybe it might interest you to know why they called themselves that, and what it was. And I think it's pretty cool. I actually just wrote an essay on this subject for my first year to round off the first year, and I was interested in the Bauhaus before I did this, so it was a pretty good essay for me to do. The Bauhaus, I probably should have said this already, was a school in Germany. It was an art school, like a really influential art school, and one of a kind, the first of its kind. It completely changed the world of art. It opened in Weimar in 1919, after the First World War. It opened after the First World War. It was opened by a guy called Walter Gropius, and he was an architect who also designed the Bauhaus building, which then opened in Dessau in 1925. Doing this off the top of my head, are you impressed? I think you should be. So yeah, it opened in 1925 in Dessau, but it'd been running since 1919. It was a school that was just, before then, art was taught by, there'd be old masters, and you would sit for hours, copy their paintings, learn how to do these idealistic, scenic paintings and nudes and Aphrodites and things like that. The typical paintings that you would see in a history, art gallery, museum. So yeah, and then after that it was the birth of modern art, Expressionism. People like Cézanne, Picasso, Van Gogh sort of emerged at this time, and they were changing the world. But the Bauhaus went one step further, and it wanted to remove the boundaries between craftsmanship and art. So when you went to the Bauhaus, things like music, poetry, which would be where the band's Bauhaus inspiration came from, architecture, design, things like, they changed the design of the chair to the way buildings are done. If you Google the Bauhaus building, that is pretty much how modern buildings look now, and they were all based on this one building that Walter Gropius built. So this school, it combined everything, including manufacturing. Like, they got factories to produce artworks, and the teachers, you had Laszlo Maholy-nagy, who was an engineer and a constructivist, and a painter, and you had Johann Itten, who was a monk. So engineer and a monk, the two, science and spirituality, and they combined everything. And the music part, there was bands that started at the Bauhaus that would sit on the roof and make music out of banging on chairs, and they would use everything to make art, and they were so forward thinking and inspirational, and just wow. The Bauhaus isn't around anymore. It moved from the Bauhaus building by Walter Gropius in Dessau to Berlin in 1932, because the Nazi or National Socialist Party had just come into power in Dessau, so they had to move because the Nazi Party were completely against the Bauhaus. The Bauhaus ran for another year in a disused telephone factory in Berlin. the Nazis hated the Bauhaus for like a ton of reasons. The first one being that lost my words. Oh yeah. The Bauhaus being so forward in art. If you didn't know, Hitler was an artist before he became a politician, and before he was in the army. He used to make a living off selling postcards and paintings in Vienna. And he painted the traditional scenic things and architecture. He was very traditional, and he made a law as soon as he became Chancellor in 1932 that all art and artists had to create the bourgeois ideal of art, which was the, realistic, ideal, scenic, sort of. It was like promoting, and they wanted artwork to promote their regime and to promote everything they did, and they wanted paintings of like everyday people working, like farmers and stuff, but he wanted them to look so happy and there to be sunsets, and so everything they did looked like it was for the people, and it was just, everybody in Germany was so happy. It's like brainwashing people. So he insisted on that as soon as he became Chancellor. Obviously the Bauhaus were Expressionists and Constructivists and all these different kinds of people, and some of them didn't even have a genre of art to slot into yet. Sometimes it was like they invented things like graphic design, and they invented the foundation course if you go to uni. So they sort of removed all boundaries and didn't create any artwork that was what the Nazis wanted. So the Nazis hated them for that. Secondly, most of the Bauhaus's teachers and students were Jewish, and everybody knows the Nazis had a problem with the Jewish community. The Nazis were convinced that within the Bauhaus there was a Bolshevistic communist group of Jewish people. Bolshevism is basically a European group of communists, normally Jewish. It's been that way since like the Russian Revolution. It's always the Jews. So he was convinced that the Jewish people were hiding within the Bauhaus, and they were all Marxists and against the Third Reich and the Nazi Party, and therefore it was a threat. So on the 20th of April, I know it was April, something of April, the Nazis moved into the Bauhaus, smashed all the windows, destroyed all the artwork. They said it was degenerate, the artwork that was produced by modern artists, including people like Picasso, Cézanne and Van Gogh, the most inspirational and popular and just, the really famous artists of the time. Their work was taken, the valuable ones were kept and the unvaluable ones were burnt. And they called it degenerate art because it meant that they had perverted minds, and therefore their artwork was perverted too. So they collected all this artwork, and when they raided the Bauhaus, they had made all the students show their papers, and if they had no form of identification, or if they were Jewish, they were packed off into vans and shipped off to concentration camps, and most of them were killed. So they really clamped down on that. In 1937, the Bauhaus never reopened after that, but in 1937 the Nazi Party held an art show in Munich that they actually called the Degenerate Art Show, or Kunstentität, I think. If you know German, tell me if that's right. And they presented artwork by the Bauhaus artists and other artists, amazing artists that people worship now because they were the founders of modern art. Their work was presented next to that of mental patients and children, basically to go, look at these guys, their work isn't, is no better than that of a child. So it was sort of mocking them, but in effect it actually broadened people's minds and showed them the work. There was another art show across the road at basically it was a German ideal kind of art show, and it got no views in comparison to the amount of people that went to the degenerate art show. And so as soon as the Second World War was over, Expressionism shot through the roof again, especially in Germany. It's kind of been all along the founder of everything modern in Germany. Everything happened there, you know, like Dada, Expressionism, Cubism, Automatism, all the isms. So yeah, that is what the Bauhaus actually is. That's what the band is definitely named after. There's no other Bauhaus. There is a Bauhaus in Chicago now, I think it is, but it's not the original Bauhaus. It's based on the original Bauhaus, but it's not the original Bauhaus because it's in America and it's not European. So yeah, I just really got into this essay. It's really interesting. There's loads of stuff that you can find. Just type in some keywords in Google, and yeah, check it out, because I don't know, I just thought I'd share that with you, in case any of you are interested in what Bauhaus means or where it even came from. I know I would have been if I didn't know. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed my little history lesson, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.